Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to the living world of darkness, rage across New York. This scene begins with a pack and their with Aiden and his family and his closest friends returning to the Sept of the Green via the Umbra. And while all are in various states of contentment, annoyance, distress, all of them are fairly high strung. All of them are riding some sort of wave. And, well, at least one of them has a head in his hand. Always good, always nice. But we will actually open scene as various members of the group either part ways or run off to sing a tale, sing a name, perhaps take time to communicate with the pack beta. We'll have the rest departing the Umbra, likely, we'll say, right about the front porch of the Seeker's cabin. Put them right tidily in place. So they will be one by one emerging into the Tellurian, some more covered with blood than others, but all at least a little speckled.
Saoirse is just kind of blankly staring. Her face is covered in woad and blood and tears. Standing there.
And with Banshee departed, as 10 Point crosses over, she'll take up the open side of Saoirse, perhaps not draping the arm about her, but certainly placing a hand on her shoulder and standing what most would consider uncomfortably close, unless, of course, most were very fond of being supported by Metis. But there's definitely just enough of a oppressive body to give the impression of support, to give something to lean on. What about you other two chucklefucks? Are you coming?
Dallas has the hammer over her shoulders, arms sort of resting over it as she walks along at Aiden's side. She's been mute for the most part, walking beside him, but just sort of keeping pace with him. If he slows, she slows. If he speeds up, she speeds up. Sort of just keeping him right alongside. Right alongside.
Aiden Lynch Krause hugs Banshee after she goes off to do howling. Hugs her very tightly. He seems to walk very absent-mindedly almost. You think he's coming from a bar or something, that he's not even drunk, he's not stumbling, he just is just very lightheaded. Seemingly almost lost in this like eternal euphoria. The head kind of bangs along his knees, he's carrying it, blood drips along his woad-stricken body. It almost looks like he's shimmering in a triple spiral as he walks. But he doesn't say anything, he just stares down at the head walking. Just stares, and the eyes are open with that same horrified expression that the man had when he was received the kiss of death. Just staring down at it as he passes by Saoirse and 10 Point, and he just seems to be blissfully unaware. He just sits down at the cabin on the ground, actually, covered in woad and his braided hair like a mess, just staring down at the head literally sitting in his lap as he just stares at it.
Well, that certainly renders Saoirse the primary concern for 10 Point. And in light of no one taking the other side of her, 10 Point will take some small initiative, especially with tear tracks already muddying the woad and blood on her cheeks. She will go ahead and turn more fully into Saoirse and pull her in and just kind of hold her there and hold her up.
Dallas will look over, and she'll kind of just give Aiden a pat on the shoulder, just like, "You good?"
There's like a silence for like about 2 minutes, and then you hear, "What?
You good?
Fine. Perfectly fine."
She'll just kind of give him a nod, and she'll take the hammer and set it down against the porch near where Aiden's sitting. She'll walk over to where Saoirse and 10 are, and she'll kind of dip her arm under Saoirse's.
Saoirse will flinch, or not expecting it.
You look like you've been through hell and back, and we came out of that on top without any major injuries. Let me get you cleaned up, and we'll come back out here.
She'll pull back from 10. She'll nod.
Yep,
All
to your
right.
point, Temple will just ease up and let her ease out. Because Dallas seems to be pretty good at corralling people who are out of it, honestly.
Question out of character. How, like, they've been in each other's head for a while. If Dallas were to mention 10 by name, and you know what name I mean,
Mm-hmm.
would she be fussed at this point about it?
With Saoirse in there, no.
With Saoirse there, she'd be fine?
Yep.
More beer, food, music. You take care of that?
Of course, Raya.
Just give her a smile. Atta girl. And she'll begin to help Saoirse into the cabin to take her into the shower to help clean her up.
All right. And 10 will pause before heading inside, and will just ease down to a knee alongside Aiden. And she'll be looking pretty closely at him while he's staring at this head.
He far away. There's a mixture of a smile, but there's also just this blissful euphoria, and almost this kind of like a child who's kind of has done something and now really is like, well, what now? But the moment has almost rushed up to him. He's too enraptured. The guy just looks completely lost, but euphoric.
So what the others will sense is there's the whole idea of being curtained off or in the, quote, common area of a pack link. And 10 will stretch her influence outside of her own mind. And she's going to stretch out towards Aiden. And you know exactly what she's looking for. Is it loosened? Is it gone?
Yeah. That's why you get this insane impression that he does not know how to react, that it's almost numbed him in a way. Like, not through any like bad way, it's more this kind of stunned silence.
Yep. So she presses out through the communal area. She presses at Aiden's mind. And once she's had a moment to ensure that it's not just loosened, it's gone, it's dispersed. There's no longer that dark knot writhing in his belly. She will ease back into her own corner, and will smile faintly in relief, and will go ahead and ease herself up, commenting through the pack link rather than bothering to do so thoroughly or verbally. When you are ready, Raya, I will prepare it for you. And she'll go ahead and slip inside to at least rinse her hands off. She's still going to be covered in woad and blood and all manner of delightful gore, but at least her hands will be rinsed off. And yeah, she'll, let's face it, food is a cute idea, but I don't think any of them are going to eat immediately after that. She will pull something out just in case Dallas herself, with that crazy Alrune metabolism, is needing it. But more likely than not, she will concern herself more with first moving to the sound system and putting on something Appropriate. Hmm. Gonna side-eye tornado on this one. Help me out here.
What do you want? What?
Oh, of the various music that they would have in there, what exactly?
Mm-hmm. I mean, through the pack link, you can hear him humming this very dark sort of Celtic music. It's probably like, you know, you can find several CDs of these dark like kind of folk bands like that play this very kind of trippy dark music. You know,
Oh,
the stuff that you hear actually Hayden listening to when he's painting his WOD.
Yep. So she lets her hand be guided by what she hears echoing in the link. We'll throw something in the sound system. And not crank it to like deafeningly loud, but crank it enough that one can hear it with the windows cracked outside. And then we'll move back to the kitchen and reach in and probably pull out 2 6-packs. Because Lord knows maybe anything harder is a bad idea. And we'll come back out onto the porch, set it on the table, glance back down to see if Aiden has shifted in the least.
Nope.
Well, in that case, she will snag out one of the beers, open it, and come back to ease down over by him, settling on her knees right alongside. And again, doesn't bother with verbal communication because he's really not quite all there yet. And, you know, interfering by putting an organ between his mind and the words, just, it seems to overcomplicate it. I can't pour this in there, Raya, until you release it long enough for me to clean it for you.
And again, that faint, confused sound comes from the pack link. You hear, what?
At which point, as soon as he's kind of stirs mentally, the beer bottle will shift a little more into his vision.
Oh, thank you. And he'll just absentmindedly take it.
Would you like me to clean the skull, Raya? We've promised the brain to Dana. I should deliver.
He looks different, 10 point.
The dead are
Do you know
not
I
nearly
studied
so
it?
charming.
I studied his face for years. And yet he looks so different.
It has been years, Raya, since you have seen it.
He really didn't remember my name. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Casts a measuring glance at him as he's saying all this. He's still distant as fuck.
Yeah. Do you know that look you get when you saw him in the initiating Dallas's ritual into the back? He looks like that. He just looks like he is fucking gone.
He remembers it now, Raya.
A tribe built on the broken souls of every human, he said.
He wanted you to frenzy, to make it fast, Raya.
He was right. You look over at her and his eyes are like the size of golf balls. He just twists his head.
Are you letting him win, Raya?
Oh no. But he was right. But he forgot one thing about us.
Your eyebrows lift up slightly, inviting him to continue.
And he gets this very dark look. His kind of green eyes kind of sparkle, and the light, the light is like his dark hair falls over his face, makes cast with WOD. It looks quite terrifying. Just because he's right doesn't mean he's going to be the one that survives at the end of the day. It does evil. That's what we do. in Stag's good grace, in honor of Arwen, the underworld, as she who we face at the end. And I could hear her singing my name.
And if you think you can bug out a Theurge with religious talk, you are sorely mistaken. His expression rings a note at her, but the talk, no. Too right, Raya. And she'll extend a hand. Please.
He'll reach over and take the last bits of drop of blood out of the man's eye, you know? Just reach over and slowly just turn the triple spiral along 10 points, starting from her eye to her cheek, back around, so it just covers her entire face. Give it back soon. I like looking at it.
And she stalls for a second, but finally gives an obedient nod. Of course, Raya.
And once the hand almost like passes, almost like he's not even there, like a ghost, and that head just plops down in your lap very gently as he just squeezes it. He squeezes his hand against yours, and like the nails kind of grate against your skin, not in an aggressive way, but he just leans back and stares out the sept. Again, that lost expression as the beer touches his lips. He just seems so dazed.
And she'll strive not to move quickly, alarmingly, anything that would jar him. And she will just ease up with the disembodied head. And will begin a slow move from the front porch to the back to do the dirty work.
On her way out, Dallas will lead Saoirse out to the front porch and have her sit down. And Dallas will sit behind her and start to just brush out her hair. They're both clean and in fresh clothes.
Although Saoirse does look like that she's already cried a little bit since being out of the shower. She does have this sort of little amused look on her face from a comment that Dallas made on the way out. But she's still extremely somber and just kind of beside herself. And she'll allow Dallas to brush her hair.
And 10 Point will probably be out of the shop for a while because she has to do things like open a skull and commit the brain to Dana, commit the eyes, commit all manner of things from out of her bag. Make sure that she will set the liver on the shrine to the small shrine to Fenris. She's got all sorts of little shrines going back there. But yeah, she essentially divvies up the goods, as it were, but for that trash bag of just flesh, which she will be divvying out later. But yeah, she will be doing all that and then probably washing her arms up to the elbows before she comes back. So it'll be a bit.
I suppose at that point, Dallas just sort of sits there, and she's been humming probably a sort of just a Fiona melody that she vaguely remembers from her childhood. But as she's sort of just working with the hair, she begins to braid. You didn't have to come with
Saoirse
us.
stares ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Sears just stares ahead and you're being played with.
You didn't have to come with us today. You could have taken your time to grieve, and I don't think any one of us would have taken any offense to it.
What was that? Go home? Can't go home. I can't have. This has been something important to Aiden since I met him. And I always promised him that I would help him find that bastard. To go.
Dallas just kind of smirks as she's working her hair into sort of concentric braids, similar to the way that she has hers. And she just nods. My blood admires you for your loyalty to your vow. My pride admires the resolve.
Kind of give a little nod without disrupting Dallas's progress. He's my best friend.
I respected you before, Raya. Today you've got another friend you can count.
She'll reach over her shoulder and reach for Dallas's hand.
Dallas will let her take it.
She'll give it a squeeze. I know I had a rough start, but thank you. I don't hold anything against you.
Dallas just gives her hand a squeeze as she says, you don't hold, and she just kind of shakes her head, sort of trying to signify that the words don't need to be said. She knows.
Nod and I've never lost. The Shadowrunners are my first pack.
The Seekers are mine. I can't even begin to understand what it would feel like. But you've got the support of the Seekers if you need it.
I can't believe she's gone.
All the words that the Get would have for this. She died on her feet. She died honorably. She died gloriously. They mean something to us. And we take that into consideration when we show a brave face. Outwardly, at least. Internally, I can say, we still feel things.
She wasn't just my alpha and my packmate. That she'll just start to sob.
Dallas will scoot down to the same step that she's on, sitting behind her, and just sort of wrap her arms around her.
She will allow herself to be held, and she will cry.
Eventually, both women will hear the soft footsteps of Aiden as he seems to be carrying something, like a basin of water with these kind of small tissues laid out. Like they seem to be very delicately folded. He like walks in, still covered in woad and gore, like twists his head and stares at Saoirse, bawling her eyes out, and Dallas holding on to her. And it's not like this like absent-minded, dopey expression, but like a face full of concern. As he'll just gently kneel in front of her.
She'll look at him.
And he'll give like a soft kind of smile, like you see like wolves do with each other. The kind of like just like the kind of nudging against her fingers.
She'll kind of reach out for him.
He'll like very carefully like fold his fingers in hers and put them against his face. It's all right. It's all right, Saoirse. We're here.
I know that and I'm sorry for taking you.
Shh. He'll gently like, use his thumb to kind of stroke against her cheek. Shh. I'm gonna do something, okay? This is what I learned. So you sit still, okay? Let me take care of you for a second.
She'll just nod.
And he'll gently wash the water with the cloak, with the like, tissues, and he'll trace the water along her forehead, along her hair, so it kind of dips in. And he will say very softly the following. With a sigh you turn away, with a deepening heart no words to say, you will find the world has changed forever, with trees made of gold and now green, sun forever fading, with a sigh you turn away, with deepening hearts. No words to say, that you wish you could hold her closer, closer forever and forever gone. That I, Aidan Lynch, tamer of dragons, Fianna Fostern, Ragabash, invite you to stay in my cabin as my friend and my family for the 3 days, and let us heal you and take you into our hearts and souls as children of Stag. Would you, Saoirse, audacious heart, the friend I have known since cubhood, accept my offer?
She'll nod, but she'll say, "Can
She may visit, but she may not stay the night. You know why? Banshee Raya will not allow that.
I know."
And mechanically, he will spend a willpower, and where will I throw this? So the spirits know this shit is good. I'll drop that willpower point because fucking right, I want this to work. Yep. And there's a warm glow you feel when that cloth touches the back of your head. As Aiden's hands there's almost like this warm, praising glow. As you can even, all of you, even 10 Point can feel it, that something is approved by this. He'll just curl Saoirse's head against his chest and trace his hands down along her hair. Anyone you want can visit, but only you may stay here. He is broken, Saoirse.
Thank you.
He'll kneel down so they're eye level. I promised I'd take care of you. I promised your mother I would.
Mother. She was mean to Teresa.
We live a harsh life. Let her just like against his chest, like sob, and just gently hum, soothing her, stroking her hair.
She'll just sob.
He'll look to Dallas gently and look over at her. Prepare the living room. We'll take her out there. Let her get some food and water.
She'll loosen her arms and just kind of rub Saoirse's shoulder before she kind of reaches out and takes one of Aiden's hands and gives it a squeeze. And she'll stand up and walk back into the cabin.
I'll say for convenience sake that by now, 10 Point has done the better part of her work. She'll be coming in the back door. Like as not, moving to the kitchen, pulling out a massive pot, and just gingerly setting the now sawed open skull, mostly cleaned, within it to be addressed and further cleaned. Though she will glance up as Dallas is moving about in the living room.
Dallas makes her way back to to her room, and will pull off the blanket and bring out the pillows, setting them down onto the couch. And she'll fold the blanket and place it by the pillows. And she'll go into the fridge and grab a few drinks and a few items of food, put them on the coffee table.
And once 10 Point has washed her arms up to the elbows, she'll turn about. Can I help you, Raya?
Dallas looks out at the two at the port or the steps of the porch, and you get a fire going in the fireplace.
She'll give a light nod and move to the hearth. And no doubt she has a very particular process about it. But while it involves throwing on some herbs as she gets the fire going, gets it stoked, she'll soon enough be setting back. Probably about time they start coaxing Saoirse inside. And once that's done, unless there's another task for her, she will consider the state of things, the emotional state of the room, really, and will slowly effect a shift to Lupus.
Dallas will kind of gesture out to the porch, and then as she comes out, she'll take the time to go to Lupus and over the pack link say to Aiden, "You should howl."
Oh, what?
Howl as our Lupus cousins would when they feel pain.
For now, let her heal first, and then the howling can begin. You see him actually just bodily pick Saoirse up. You know?
10 Point will trot anxiously alongside.
Let her be home with family. And he'll say that out loud, actually, so Saoirse can hear him say it.
She clings to Aiden.
That can wait. For now, our sister needs to heal. Inside, where home is. And he'll just smile gently at Dallas, not in an angry way. Seems more appreciative, and he will kind of carry Saoirse in and just settle down with her on the couch.
10 Point will wait just long enough for them to settle, long enough for them to do whatever shifting will be done to get comfortable. And then depending on how much room there is, she'll either actually pop up on the couch to do it, or simply from the floor will kind of wriggle in, setting her head in Saoirse's lap. Butting her nose under a hand if she needs to.
Yeah, she sort of absentmindedly just starts petting on 10 Point.
Dallas will hop onto either side where Aiden is and just kind of curl herself up and sort of nuzzle into him.
Thank you all for being here for me. It means a lot.
You are as good as family, Raya. Head slightly tilts.
She pets 10 Point a little bit with more purpose, just to assure her that she cares about her too.
She'll nuzzle into any sign of affection, not even necessarily for her own sake, but doing her best to play, well, therapy dog, really. There's just something comforting about the Lupus. At any time that Saoirse gets too quiet for too long, gets a little distant, stops moving her hands. Any signs that she's getting too far into her own head, she'll actually feel like warm Lupus tongue, like lap at her knuckles, lap at her hand. Just something to kind of pull her back into the right here, right now, so she doesn't sink back into her head, back into dwelling on whatever's going on in there.
Dallas will relax back into Hamid. And she will go over to the record player she brought with her from Boston and just put something, probably old cultic lullabies or something of that nature. Just set it on, turn the volume down to just barely audible.
Saoirse will just kind of settle in and dry up her tears and allow herself to be comforted by everybody.
I should be. She'll stand up and look at Aiden. I should be getting back to the hotel.
Not tonight. We don't leave anywhere tonight.
Over the pack link, she'll cane her head to one side. Over the pack link, she'll, not like she's in protest. She's just like, "Are you absolutely sure?"
She just gets cut off. All of our family stay tonight.
And she'll nod.
He'll say out loud so everyone hears, "We've won a great victory, but suffered a great loss. For now, there will be no celebrations. Only the healing that one of us needs. And when that happens, we will celebrate and grieve. For now, we rest. And let us enjoy each other's company."
At some point, we'll engage in kind of the 1v1 chat, just kind of casting a thought in Dallas's direction, as she did get a certain level of severe during the fight. But she has had time to cool down and to shower and whatnot. So it's just the simple question. Are you stable, Raya?
Dallas just kind of, her brows quirk up as she goes and she grabs one of the long necks and pulls the cap off as she sits on the coffee table in front of Saoirse. She just, over the one-on-one, it's like, just sort of matter-of-factly, "I'm fine."
And she'll get a brief kind of thankful flush through the link, and then it will quiet back down. And she'll cant her head, lapping briefly at one of Saoirse's hands, catching a couple fingers.
Saoirse will offer a smile.
Would it do you good, Raya, to speak? To tell us about her, to tell us of her, to remember fondly, Raya?
If I told you. She was one of the most amazing people I've ever met. For her past experiences with Fiona, for her to be friends with I will never forget. Sure, overcome some things, but she still had her issues, of course. She'll never get to have revenge on her father. Maybe I'll do that for her. Make him pay for what he did to her. You know, she grew up on a Fiona Sept. She was born half Fiona, half Glasswalker. They treated her worse than a mess. They withheld food from her, didn't let her go to school. I kept telling her they're not real Fiona, that that's not the way a Homid-born child would be treated.
Never ran in all my years. Not once.
I tried so hard to redeem the tribe, myself, in her eyes. I endured the hurtful things she said because I knew what she'd gone through. And she was coming around. Until my mother. When we went to Tara for Alona's challenge. She talked down to her for being a glasswalker. It really hurt her. The last actual conversation we had was right after that. And she was so angry. I heard what she said. And some of the things were hurtful. Around. And she apologized. She knows that I'm not like that. You're not like that. Aiden's not like that. Alona's not like that. We're the ones that turned her views around and made her tolerate being around Fiona more than she ever would before. But you know why I put up with it like I did? I knew she was hurting. And I loved her. I loved her more than I thought I could ever love a person.
Is she tearing up again?
Mm-hmm.
And saying that she loves her doesn't seem to, or loved her, doesn't seem to jar 10 Point in the least. If anything, there's a fairly blatant sense of sympathy. And she, especially as tears start running down her cheeks again, very carefully picks her head up from on her lap. Will even put a paw up on the couch to raise herself up enough to first nose one of the tears off of her cheeks, and then very carefully nuzzle her so that the antlers are not in the equation. Of course you did, Raya. She was the family you chose.
She just nods. How do I go home? How do I go on without her? How do I pick myself up for the rest of my pack? I don't know. I don't know what to do.
And the big canine head just kind of nuzzles in against her cheek. You take this time, Raya, and you hurt and you cry. And you tread water. But with some time, Raya, you'll realize the ground is right under your feet. And it's hard. And I'm sorry. If I lost the family that I was so lucky to gain, it would break me. You've seen.
She nods. I have. She's never coming back. And I'll never get to see her again. I'll never get to touch her again and hold her again. Touch her again.
By now, 10 Point will actually go so far as to spend the rage to shift. And she may still be in Aiden's lap, but 10 Point will nonetheless quickly shift across, setting an arm around her. Still setting, like, her brow very gingerly against the side of her head, against her temple. I'm sorry, Raya. There are sometimes rights. But in this case, there is little I can do.
Glasswalkers don't have ancestors.
And she purses her lips.
And if there are no ancestors, she'll reach out and take Shearsh's hands. The duty falls to you, to us. To keep the memories. To tell the tales.
I know. And I will. Just... I can't right now.
You stay right here. Let the world pass you by for a while.
What is ours is yours, Raya. Do whatever you need do to lessen the knot in your belly, to shear the weight from your shoulders.
She will just lean into 10 Point, laden with her. Kind of a cuddle pile.
And yeah, 10 Point is not leery in the least of being all up in people's personal space. She will stay as close as she can manage, as close as she can press to Saoirse. Put her in a cocoon of family. Cocoon.
Dallas will take a breath, look back towards our door. Night like this, you should sleep in a bed. Take mine.
Are you sure about that?
You had a sister who's mourning. While I might be Fenrir, I still remember certain things.
Saoirse will nod. How big is the bed, Dallas?
Big enough.
I'm pretty tiny. You could sleep in there too.
Would you like me to lay at the foot, Raya? So that you are not by yourself.
She'll nod.
Then I will be your shadow, Raya.
Okay.
This is the least I can do for you, after the kindness you've done me.
Come on, Loretta. He just lifts up, perfectly scoops her into his arms, like a child.
She'll hug on to Aiden.
Let's get you to bed. You gently carry her into Dallas's room and would gently tuck her in. Stroking her hair very softly, smiling down at her.
I'll offer a small smile back up at him.
I'll be right next door, okay?
All right. Thank you.
If you want to crawl in, just smile at her warmly. It won't look weird, okay?
She'll nod. Hey.
10 Point
You
is
bend down and
close
kiss the
behind.
top of her forehead and walk into his own room very absent-mindedly,
10 Point has shadowed close behind, as promised, and again exerts some of the spare rage that she's holding. And as quick as you like is in Lupus, and within moments of Saoirse having hit the bed, will have jumped up on top of it. Initially kind of settling at the foot, though as Aiden turns to go, she will kind of tentatively pace up to where she is in a more huggable position, kind of draped out alongside her.
Yeah, Saoirse would have pat beside her for her to come up there so that she can cuddle her.
Yep. She slips right up there and nestles in completely shamelessly alongside Saoirse, even tucking her head around.
Hug on to 10 Point. Probably fall asleep. Just like that.
Yep. And 10 Point will stay there and ease her breathing to something very steady. Because especially if they're pressed fairly close together, there's a kind of unconscious tendency to echo the person you're laying next to. And we'll do our best to coax Saoirse down into at least a light sleep before she takes a moment, informs the other two, just kind of gives them the gist that she's calmed down, that she's sleeping now. And will go ahead and rest herself. She will not budge unless Saoirse does.
Dallas will take the time to clean up. And as she feels sort of the nudge from 10 Point, she kind of gives herself a smile. And as she finishes the beer that she opened and tosses the glass into a recycling bin, she makes her way back. And she stops at Aiden's room and knocks on the door before she pushes it open.
He doesn't even respond. He is lying down on the bed, staring at the skull.
She'll walk over and sit by his knees, kind of pat him on the hip.
Kind of takes a minute, but he kind of half responds and looks over.
You gonna be okay?
Yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
If you want someone to stay in here with you, she's covered.
It's fine, Dallas. I'm just gonna watch for a while.
She'll give him a pat before she stands back up. She'll take a minute and then turn back, and she'll take his blanket and just sort of pull it up over his legs, up to his waist.
Eventually, before Dallas turns, he just gets pulled onto the bed with him, basically, you know, like this big floppy hug, you know.
Dallas will give him a squeeze.
You can stay if you want, Dallas. I'm just watching.
In most cases, I would. But looking at you, without even having to dive into your head, I know that you're thinking a lot. And I feel like this is some time that you need. Private time.
You just nod.
But if you do need me, I'll come running.
He just nods again and goes back to staring at the skull.
And she'll walk back out, shut his door, walk over into her own room and shut the door behind her. And she looks at the bed and the situation in the bed, sort of scrunches up her nose as she thinks about, now how am I gonna do this? And she'll change into her night clothes, and then she will walk to the end of her bed, step over the hope chest, and sort of nestle herself between Saoirse and the wall. And she'll drape an arm over Saoirse and sit there and probably stay awake for several hours just watching 10 Point and Saoirse.
Saoirse will probably just, like, unconsciously scooch her and 10 Point over a little bit to give Dallas some more room. Not really waking up to do so.
Yep, I was about to say the same thing. There'll be the kind of half-aware squirming.
And in Dallas's head, to just herself, oh, thank Gaia. And she will nestle in, and she will close her eyes.
And I presume that's a good place to close this. So I will say thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. we will see you next time on the Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York.